Do I look cooler if you can see my keyboard? Maybe. Welcome back, guys. It is Levi from The Modern Producer, and today I'm going to be sharing my 5 tips for making better sounding pop drums. What I got here today is a 16 bar loop, pretty much of just some drums that they came up with, what I would typically kind of go with. So it's got some drums, it's got a synth bass going, it's got guitar from my new pack Sad Boy, and it's got just a little synth sound on it. So before we start, I'm just going to ask for you guys to subscribe and like this video down below if you haven't already. We just want to get this information out to as many people as we can, as many of the starting out producers as we can. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so for tip number 1 is going to be finding the right sounds. And this one can go a number of ways. It's all depending on what the song is calling for. But good quality sounds is a big one. So I'll just jump right into it. What I started with was this guitar that comes in our new Serum preset pack as a bonus, Sad Boy. So I'll play that real quick. That's what I started with. And so right away I was kind of feeling a acoustic kick. So this is what I got. Which you can kind of hear the air behind it. You could probably add a little bit of dirt with some distortion or something, but so that's kind of what I got going on. Let's see what else we got. We got some snares, 2 layered with. So this bottom one right here, I've kind of got for a little bit of thickness, and this top one for the kind of the highs. You can also hear some some super high frequencies in there to make it stick out a bit. And then I got this says snare 3, but I think it's a clap. Kind of, it's like a little barrel thing kind of. Also on this I've got little bit crusher thing kind of going on. So yeah, finding quality sounds, messing around with some different layers to get the sound that you want. Let's get on to this next one. I think this next one, what do we got here? Yeah. So that's, and kind of the same as this other one. Yeah, and kind of go, not just having, all these on every other, on every snare hit. That's why I've got, you want to kind of shake things up a bit. That's why I've got, this one coming in on every other snare hit here. Same with these, which up here are some clap gates that I got going on. So, yeah, just kind of finding good quality sounds. Messing around with different sounds and layering, and getting that sound that you're looking for. If your drums are feeling a bit thin, maybe mess around with a different sound that kind of beefs it up a little bit, or layer another kick on top of another. Maybe layer a more low frequency kick on top of one that doesn't sound as thick and is more on the papery sounding side. You can maybe use that for the high end. But yeah, maybe mess around with layering, or just if it just in general just isn't sounding good, move on to the next sound. So what else we got here? We got all right, we'll come down here to percussion. On this, I've kind of got everything I've got some weird filter and automation stuff kind of going on here. So I've kind of cut out the low end and the high end, and then I basically automated this little frequency right here to kind of move around, kind of get some variation in those frequencies in the high cut. So I'll play that with everything. But I wanted to take out that high end from it so you can hear this kind of shuffling hat going on. So, and then, so after all these in the hat, we've got just your typical shaker here. Kind of moving the drums along and keeping that on top of the hi-hat and the percussion. We'll play all these three together so you can kind of hear. So I feel like the hi-hat, percussion, and shaker's still percussion, but those are the kind of things that really get your drums moving instead of just kick and snares. So like percussion really fills in the gaps. So I could just play that. It just gets it moving. So mess around with layering different sounds if one just isn't feeling like it belongs. So that is tip number 1. Tip number 2 is going to be flavor, and what I mean by flavor can be a number of different things. For this, it's going to be adding things like ghost notes, or for example, what I usually do with kicks to make these kind of a little bit more real sounding and less, like samples that I just dropped in, which I did. What I would typically do in this situation where it goes, da-da, right there, I'll highlight this guy and come over here and gain him down a bit. So instead of being that same volume, it's kind of like you're lightly tapping that kick and coming back with a harder one. So if I play this now, I mean, it already sounds a million times more, organic. And along with that, which in this situation, obviously you'd want to fade because it probably, goes into that. So on top of that, what I'll do to give it a bit more realism here is, because if you're playing a real drum set, this is how you would play a real drum set. You would lightly tap that one and kick this one a bit harder, and on top of that, the tuning of that, which I mean, who knows if you could really hear the difference here, but when you would kick here, the tuning of the kick drum wouldn't be as high. So what I typically do on here, I'll fine tune this just a little bit less. So this is just a little bit lower in pitch than this. I don't want to take down the transpose because that'll be way too much. So you probably can't really hear, but I don't know. I feel like I can, and that's one of my little things that I do to kind of get it a bit more real. Another thing for flavor, I'll kind of do the same things up here on hi-hats. Is those ghost notes? You can kind of hear if I just play it by itself. So I'll kind of play that with everything on these drums. Kind of pay attention to. So that from take that down. Same thing here, just take that and gain that guy down. Fine tune her a little bit down. So also on the flavoring, that's kind of also where on the percussion where this kind of comes in is, instead of just taking this EQ off and get it, do a little something different and take that EQ and move it around, give it a little something different than just that same sound. So, ghost notes messing around with, and on top of these, the percussion. The percussion was a whole loop around, like right here, and it was just kind of going through the same loop, and I was just, I don't know, it was too. You heard the same thing over and over, and so what I did was basically chop up these different sections of it, and basically just placed them randomly around, kind of everywhere. And so like this part probably in the original file was like over here, and this one was probably over here. So to give it a little bit more variety, I just kind of chopped them up and just placed them wherever around here, so you weren't continuously hearing the same exact thing. So give it a little bit more randomness, and that's kind of flavor, randomness, ghost notes, just things that doesn't give that same, it doesn't make it seem like a loop. I think that definitely makes your drum sound a bit more real and a bit more just cool, and just easier to listen to. Tip number 3 is going to be leveling. Pretty simple, but it definitely takes a lot of time to kind of figure everything out. What I definitely want to focus on too is the kick and the snare, especially compared with the vocal and where the vocal's sitting, because in pop music the vocal is the most important part. You want to be able to hear all the words. You don't want to be distracted by a hard-hitting snare, which obviously you want to hear the snare, you want to hear the kick. That's what's driving the song. But it takes time to learn where everything should go. Just reference your favorite song, your chart topping songs, and where those kicks, what they've where they have those kicks and snares and all the other instruments, with the vocals and stuff. So it just depends on the song, and or the drums supposed to be more heavy and out there than the vocals. I've heard countless songs that the vocal isn't the most important part. It's just the groove in the song in general. So that is tip number 3. All right, guys, so tip number 4 is going to be learning drums or learning rhythm. I found that because I learned drums when I was 9 years old, and I feel like that really transferred from here to programming drums, and knowing the rhythm and knowing how to drum to a click. But I just think knowing how real drums work, and just like how I took the kick, gaining down that first initial to give that sound a little bit more realism. I think at least even if it's watching YouTube videos, just learning more about real drums, I think that can help you immensely when producing, and just that is tip number 4. And tip number 5, you guys, is going to be parallel compression. And for those who do not know what parallel compression is, it's pretty much trying to make it as simple as possible. If you put a compressor on a vocal, or a drum loop, or guitar, or bass, sometimes you'll see a mix knob, or like a wet and dry knob, something like that. What it's basically doing is, so say you put the compressor on there, and it's you see the needle moving, it's compressing. The wet and dry knob, or the mix knob, basically mixes the original signal that's not compressed with the current compressed signal. So it's basically taking the original audio file that has more dynamics to it, and kind of mixing it in. So what people do a lot of the times, especially with drums, is they'll compress the drums as noble. Oh my god, what the fuck? All right, take fucking 3. And tip number 5, you guys, is going to be parallel compression. And if you do not know what parallel compression is, it's pretty much mixing a compressed signal. Say you've got a drum loop, put a compressor on it, and you've got a mix knob or a wet and dry knob. Parallel compression is pretty much mixing the compressed file with the non-compressed file. And so what people typically do, especially with drums, they'll have, they'll put their compressor on it, and then they'll put another compressor on it that is super, super compressed, super smashed, and then turning the, mix knob all the way down, and then just slowly bringing it in, and barely having those, that super compressed, signal coming through. And so there's a bunch of different ways to do that, and I do it multiple times with drums. I'll do it a couple different ways. I don't know why, but the first way, how I'll start it is, I won't do it with the shaker or the hi-hat because I don't really want to compress those anymore, but I'll highlight these, and I'll basically bounce them in place with Control B on your keyboards. I'll just name it drum loop. And then take this and move it down below here, and then just highlight the same things that, those are all muted. So then Control M on your keyboard brings them back. And so I'll solo these real quick. This is basically just all those things that we bounced in place. And so what I will do is what can we do? What can we do here? We'll grab in this case, I'm going to do a compressor plus a distortion plugin or something. So auto gain, take this down a bit. You crank the ratio up and pull that threshold way back. So you can kind of hear it's just completely getting destroyed, but do that. And then what I'll also do is I'm just kind of running through this quickly. We can go to distortion, overdrive. We can do any of these really. I'll just go to overdrive, but just get this guy. Bring that tone all the way up. Drive that guy. Bring that output down. You can see how distorted that is. And honestly, that's not even distorted enough for me, so I'm just gonna option click that and click and drag that down to duplicate it and bring it back. Kind of scared to see how this sounds now. You can definitely hear that distortion in there now. So what I'll do with this is, because there's already enough low end in there, I'll make a new EQ and I'll pull that back a little bit using this guy. So there's still kind of some lows in there. Maybe just a little bit of the high. There's not too much. Just stuff that you don't need. Alright, and so we can solo these drums now. I'll turn this guy all the way down because I'm just going to mix it in with it. And so slowly bring this up. And honestly, I feel like that's still not even distorted enough because I feel like you can't really hear it. So let's make another drive. It's just, this is my old computer because my the one I usually produce with is Apple right now because the battery is swollen. So typically I would use, if we go down here, typically I would use something like, where is it at? Sound Toys Devil Lock Deluxe. But if I click on it, then because I uninstalled everything, but I don't know why everything's still here. It'll try to load, but it won't, and Logic will freeze and glitch out. So that's something I would typically use, like that, or Sound Toys Decapitator. But we're using this for now. So I probably usually wouldn't go this extreme with it though, which is, I'm just trying to make a point here. So yeah, so I'll just kind of slowly mix this guy in with these drums. Just to thicken it up a little bit, give it a little bit of drive. And that's I think the reason I'm doing this rather than putting it on a send, which I'll show here in a second. I feel like this is just more tonal rather than kind of using this more for the tone of everything instead of real, parallel, getting everything kind of a little bit more beefy. Even this is more, this is used for getting it beefy, but I like the distortion more for the sound. So I'll do that, and so then I'll go, since I've got all my instruments in their groups, I'll go to this top, drums folder, and I'll just, send bus. I like to use this 33 and up for my, my parallel stuff. So go 3, and I will then, let's see, click on that guy, audio effects, and this is where I'll, dynamics, compressor. So can I solo this? Yes. So this is just the compressed signal. So this is also where people, crank it up, pull it back. That's a bit much. And then also what I'll do is I'll kind of, not that one, take this kind of low end and bring it up, and the high, because we're not gonna mix all of this with it, so you can kind of go a bit extreme with it, and make sure those lows are really bumping in there. And then I'll rename this down here, either drum crush or drum PLL, and sometimes I'll keep that at 0, or I'll just keep this guy at 0 and pull this up. It's soloed, so solo drums in the parallel. Then I'll sort of pull it up just enough so you don't want to have it too loud. You just want it just enough so that it just beefs everything up a little bit. And so you can do it that way. You can do it this way right here. I don't know why I do it this way sometimes. I do both typically, but there you go. That is tip number 5. All right, thank you guys for watching. I hope those tips were helpful. Remember to go grab our new Sad Boy preset pack below. I'll leave a link. So thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.